Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3 testing. Oh my word, did that fix it? Ooh, I'll have to try this. Okay, so what I did, folks, how far am I in? So what I did, folks, was while I was having my stuttering issue, I just went to my settings and I tested my connection. I didn't test multiplayer, I didn't test anything else. I tested the actual like stats and statistics test. And I did that. And that seemed to fix my issue, which is great. So hopefully it did. We're going to try this again. Welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at gaming news and all that good fancy stuff. We review games when we can, of course, and then, of course, we stream for fun. This one is a state of gaming, and I think it's important to talk about the state of gaming because it's important to look at where a game was, where it is today, and possibly where it's going. And not just games either, but also just the companies and the publishers. And lately, we can definitely tell in the last 5 years that the state of gaming has really decreased in quality, and it's just so grindy. It's all about monetization, and them doing the least amount of work to get the most amount of money. And some of it, at this point, in my opinion, is even criminal. I almost want loot boxes back, because at least that's as far as it went. But I think one of them that we need to take a look at is Destiny 2 itself. So we know Destiny's been around for a long time. We know that, Destiny was like 9 years ago, which is pretty crazy. Maybe even a little longer than that, maybe 2011. So that'd make it 12 years ago. Yeah, Destiny's been around for a long time. I played Destiny 1. I really enjoyed it most of the time. There were a few things, but there's always something with one of the games, right? And then I got into Destiny 2, and I enjoyed it for about the first year, and then they really started tweaking stuff. And then a little bit later, we also heard that Destiny 2 was now going to become a completely live service, and they just plan to just make content for the game for, forever. And we're still, I think we're 6 years in. Which honestly is pretty good. They've held a pretty good player base, but we've really started to have some pretty crazy changes in the last couple of years. Some of them good, most of them bad in my opinion. But lately, the most of the hate coming from the player base and the community has been recently, and so I'm going to be going over that. Before I do, though, I want to tell you that, man, take a look. If you're on Xbox, take a look on Xbox Game Store. And during the games specials, they have 162 lines of 5 items each. That's a lot of games and a lot of DLC. So take a look at that. And some stuff is on super sale. Some stuff I don't see on sale really ever is actually on sale this week. Through the weekend and into next week. Some of them are just the next 5 days. Some of them are the next 10 days. So be sure to take a look at that wherever you are in the world. And maybe Sony's doing one too. But yeah, this is a huge sale. This is one of the biggest ones I've seen. And yeah, there's everything from quite a few, basically all of the Call of Duties, all of the Lego games, some of the newer games too, like Hogwarts Legacy and Dead Space Remake, and even Dead Island 2, which just literally came out. So yeah, take a look. There's a lot of content in there, and I guarantee you there's at least one game that you've been waiting for to come on sale that's on sale right now. And a lot of these games are 40% off or more. So yeah, take a look at that. So let's talk about Destiny 2. So a lot of this, there's been some monetization. We already know about this. There's also already been a lot of changes over Destiny. But boy, a lot of this really started coming to light when we got LightFall. So this was a few months ago, and LightFall did a horrible job at telling the story of LightFall. So the story was really choppy. Nothing was really explained, which was super frustrating. Also, some of the newer characters were not good. We had one die off right in the toward the end of LightFall, which again, it's like, okay, what was the point? You're supposed to feel something, and you just don't. It's kind of like all of the deaths that happened in Infinite Warfare. And then they roll the credits through, and you see the pictures with this heroic music, and you're just laughing because it's like, I don't feel anything for these characters. They didn't do anything with them. They also had another character that had a lot of childish lines, was maybe supposed to be funny, and just really didn't come across that way. And I know if I try to pronounce his name, I'll say it wrong. Um, they also had whole missions that were just basically a tutorial and getting to practice. So that's kind of boring too. They didn't have to do it that way. They haven't done it that way in the past. And a lot of times they're just like, hey, this is kind of how it is. Here's an environment or kind of like an engagement with enemies, and you get to test out your new ability. And that was fun. I enjoyed that. They did a good job with the previous super classes, but this time with the threads, they're not doing it that way. And yeah, kind of what a bummer. So yeah, like mission 7 was an entire tutorial on how to use your new upgrade. And it was very kind of just, even the story, like nothing crazy was going on. There weren't enemies busting through the doors and coming through the ceiling. It was just kind of someone showing you how to do it, and that makes it pretty boring, honestly. They didn't have to do it that way. And also throughout the entire campaign, all of these NPCs, their supporting characters know what the Veil is. And once we hear about the Veil, it is missions and missions later to where we actually get an idea of what the Veil is in the game, and who the witness is. And it's like we really just have no idea, and it's like they withhold that more to be mean than to actually, engage with something. Because everybody else, there's plenty of opportunities. There's probably half a dozen big opportunities in the game, for them to start fleshing it out in the story just for a couple of minutes to explain what the Veil is, to explain what they know, but they purposefully negate all of that during the gameplay until basically the very end. And that's incredibly frustrating. I mean, it's just kind of a dick move where you're just left out as the player, and you feel like an idiot because no one is going to tell you what's going on. Oh, this is urgent, so I got to tell you later, or you should already know, or, I'm just going to mention this and then just blatantly move on. And yeah, that's a horrible way to tell a story. It's very disconnecting to the character. They're trying to get involved with this story. They're trying to get involved with the characters. And again, just kind of how they do almost everything through the entire story of LightFall is just really poorly done. Now, I do have to say I have not played this myself, but there's probably been about 5 or 6 videos that I've watched where hardcore players that have been playing forever have gone back and talked about it or have reacted to someone else talking about it. And this includes not just the story, but also the monetization in the game, the player base, and this is some of the other stuff that I'm going to chat about, but I will save one caveat at the very end. So the next thing is the monetization. Not only is the story just kind of been bleh, and they are reusing the Vex over and over and over again, and they're just kind of there. They're not really like a threat anymore. There's not really a lot of new enemies. It's not like the Heart of Darkness, which was a blast way back when. But yeah, they're just kind of running out of ideas and running out of oh no's in the game. And then we have this monetization. So already, we've had an in-game currency for a long time. And it's to buy stuff. It's to buy emotes, and it's to buy cosmetics, and it's to buy a fancier ship or whatever. Some of the challenges, too, allow you access to some of these cosmetics and ships and other items in the game. There's certain quests you can do for exotics, which is always fun, usually. But yeah, this monetization has totally taken on a whole new level where they've been removing things from the game. They've been putting things back that you've had to pay for a second or third time. Even one of their big DLCs right now that you can buy, called the Armory, is pretty much worthless because a lot of the stuff in the Armory is already gone. And some of these guns and gear you do get, you kind of have to grind them over again. And that was even something I got to experience when I still played. It's just like, good grief, this is ridiculous. They literally took out my favorite gun way back when, which I don't even think most people know about it, but it was called the Zombie Apocalypse. And that light machine gun was the freaking just wrath of God on the battlefield or in PvP. It didn't matter. I mean, it was just incredible. And the upgrades you could get with your gear as a Titan just made you flipping unstoppable on top of having like 2 grenades and etc. I mean, you were just basically the Archangel raping everybody out there on the field or helping your team, or it was great. And they took out some of that stuff, and this, in Zombie Apocalypse, it wasn't even an exotic weapon. But, they've taken things out, they've taken out game modes, they put more stuff behind a paywall. They even do it to where if you do want to buy currency, well, it costs you 1,200, and you can only buy 1,000 at a time. So then you got to spend another however much, so you actually have enough, and then you buy more than you need. So they're purposefully trying to get you to just pay more with having access, and purposefully designing it that way in the stores and with the items to just get you to pay more. And that's really trashy. Um, some of the modes they used to have was Forge. You could kind of like make your own weapon and work for it. That was fun. Um, as I said, there's also other aspects of the game that are put behind a paywall. And so, in order to take part in some things, even some of the festivals, you gotta buy the battle pass now, and you gotta buy, kind of like the year one pass, or you gotta buy the expansions. And the expansions, they're not even all bundled together either. There's always a big one once a year, and it's no longer $40. It's 50. And so they're even expanding or increasing the prices on some of these expansions. And then after a while, after 3 or 4 months, they're taking stuff away. Or after a year, they're taking stuff away. And even with all this monetization, you at least would think, okay, at least they have a free version of the game. No, I wouldn't call it a free version. I would call it a free trial that never ends. You can play it and try it as much as you want, but you're basically 18, 24 months behind everyone else. And everyone that's still playing has already well overplayed to death all of that stuff. And then, of course, they're going to be playing the new content. So I even ran into this a while ago when I was trying to get back into it. I had a cousin that played. He doesn't play anymore for these reasons that I'm chatting about today. But it was frustrating because there were quite a few things that he wanted to do or wanted to share with me, or we could co-op together, but we couldn't do it because so much of the game wasn't available. And it's even worse now. Back then, it was about 12 months back, 3 expansions, and now it's more than that. And so, yeah, the free version of the game, it's not a free version, it's a free trial. And so even that is just pissing in your Cheerios. And then they expand, your light level, and they tweak all of the gear and rebalance stuff, and they even taken out some exotics that people worked hard for, and you were compensated for it. Just to shove it back in the game later and have you regrind for it again, or pay for it even, like the Galahorn. That was just one of the best rocket launchers that they had in the game, and again, they screwed the pooch on that. And so, yeah, this is really getting frustrating. The monetization has just taken a whole new level with anything and everything they can think of, and even the materials. So part of the grind is to get you to just spend money to kind of like skip ahead or shorten your grind time, which that's pretty common in most games today. But like I remember when I played back in PvP in the Crucible, I totally gunned for a certain item so I could level up a certain gun, that I liked. And I grinded basically for a week. I stayed up late. I skipped out on friends. I skipped out on family events and stuff. And I basically ground for that week. And when I got access finally in the store, I bought one, and then I had to regrind all over again. And I thought, man, are you kidding me? I literally spent like 20 hours this week grinding in the Crucible so I could get to this level or tier to get this item, and I only get one. Why, needless to say, I never did that again, and that was one of the nails in the coffin for me to actually quit. Because I busted my can so hard, and really at the end of the day, I barely got anything for it. And so I'm not even excited to see what they're going to do next. They technically have one more expansion called The Final Shape, and that's going to cap, this last 10-year run or whatever of Destiny and Destiny 2, and then we're going to get something new. And what that's going to look like, we have no idea, but with how they did LightFall, how they've done the monetization, and I even got to talk about the player base. The players used to be really nice back in Destiny 1. In the hub world on Earth, you could basically sit in the circle up front and wait for people to queue in for a raid. And people would sit there and they'd wait and just blah, 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 just BS in the chat or whatever. And then when you get enough people, you'd go. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. People also aren't willing to take the time to show you how to do something. If you already don't know about it, then you're just a waste of time. And that's a really sad way to do it, in my opinion. Let me check my audio here. Yeah, it's still good. And I wish the community was better. And this isn't just a Destiny problem. This is Call of Duty. This is World of Warcraft. This is Dota, League of Legends, name it. I mean, this is basically the problem, is that people don't want to spend the time to invest in other players and actually make friends anymore. So all of our multiplayer games are single-player games. And we have some of these games, all they are is multiplayer, like Overwatch 2, or even an older one like Black Ops 4, which most people don't even remember there was a Black Ops 4. But yeah, we have these games where it's just like, they're not even worth it. They can't stay alive because, again, the player base, I wouldn't even say toxic, it's just lonely. People don't want to take the time to invest because it's too much work. And so then what you get is you get hundreds of thousands of people playing on servers and stuff. Nobody talks in lobbies anymore. No one communicates. No one does tactics. And the only ones that are playing with people are buddies that they've already made in previous games way back in the day, or buddies that they know in real life. Like how I know Lion. And it's really pretty insane with how toxic and frustrating and immature some of these communities are. But I mean, if you play a game and you don't like your community, be a part of the change. Be one of the ones to start the change and start actually talking with people, start trying to make friends. Yeah, you're not going to get a really good return for probably quite a while, but I mean, man, if you're going to quit on people, you're quitting on life, really, because the stuff doesn't love you back. The stuff doesn't make you belong anywhere. And it's incredibly frustrating that just the player base has turned into this on Destiny. And Bungie has no way to fix it. They've made it too competitive, they made it too grindy, and there's just really no way to do it. What I really enjoy is that From Software and their Dark Souls and Elden Ring games, is they've made it in a way to be able to just invest in each other and to help out, or to choose to invade, and people kind of get to select that. In these other games, people don't have that choice, really. You can go into the Crucible, but also if you're in a strike, you're not really helping each other out. There's none of this kind of congruency with other players, and it can be incredibly frustrating. And another thing, too, is the multiplayer and the people, they are what make the glue for the game. It doesn't matter if it's Destiny, Call of Duty, whatever else. The people are what make the glue. They make everything cohesive. They make it fun, and even bad games like Redfall can still be enjoyable with other players. And you can just pop around and kill some stuff and just kind of make fun of the game together. And that's more fun. Or you can just absolutely get slaughtered, like in right now, Dark Souls, like with Lion and I. And yeah, we've had some pretty tough runs where we're just getting destroyed out there, or different bosses, but we're still having a good time. And so yeah, it's people that make the space of gaming fun. And unfortunately, like I said back in January, I think multiplayer and these live service stuff is going to disappear because the multiplayer has been the aspect, the main push for most games. Even like Battlefield 2042, it's all multiplayer. There is no campaign. But what these studios are going to find out is that people aren't connecting with other people. The multiplayer isn't fun, the grindiness is frustrating, and the monetization is criminal. And so it's just like, why play the game? I'm not getting anything out of this. And even on my friends list, I said this multiple times already, but I'll say it again. There's so many people that play the older style games. And people just don't make connections like they used to. So, I mean, the player base, it has to change. The toxicity, the hatefulness, just being mean because you can, because the person can't punch you through a screen like I would. The immaturity, being disrespectful, unhelpful, and then nobody talks or tries anymore. And so this is the community that we've made, unfortunately. And then with the monetization in Destiny 2 and how LightFall was, and I mean, it's really put this entire game in jeopardy. And the last caveat that I'll add, since my batteries are about to die, is that now Bungie is owned by Sony. So Sony bought them in January of 2022. And if we take a look at Gran Turismo or some of the other games that they've made recently, they have just immensely changed the game after it came out, made it more grindy, put more stuff behind a paywall. I mean, even Rockstar did this with Grand Theft Auto 5 and put it behind like Grand Theft Auto Plus or whatever that is. And they took literally 200 cars out of the game and shoved them basically behind a paywall. And that is disgusting. And like, we should not be paying into this. We shouldn't be giving them money for this. You know, initially it was kind of like, okay, the DLC isn't as big, or hey, we get, you know, the pre-order bonus is some cosmetics and stuff. But now just like all of that has become mainstay. And like I said before, I wish loot boxes were back, because that was so much less BS than what we have today. It really is. And with Sony now owning Bungie, we can absolutely give Sony the credit for LightFall. Because Sony is now the puppet master, Bungie is now the servant. And yes, Sony is gonna... I'm sorry to say, I think Sony's gonna totally destroy Destiny. I think even if they make Destiny 3, people are gonna be like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. And I feel bad for the people, too, that say they can't quit. There's plenty of videos out there where players rant and they talk about how they've put so much money in and they still can't quit. And man, I gotta encourage you guys, whether it's a horrible job, whether it's a bad relationship, besides marriage, and we'll get into that when we start playing, my wife and I start playing It Takes Two. That's different. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, if something is just bad and you're not getting a good return on your investment or your time or money, don't keep pouring stuff into it. Put your resources somewhere else, because once you spend those resources, you don't get them back. And one of them you definitely don't get back is time. You have no way to make that back. You can't get a second job and get more time. It just doesn't work that way. So use your time well, folks. Every day. Invest in yourself and invest in other people. So yeah, this is really disappointing with just what's happened with Destiny. And I fear too. Sorry about that, folks. I had to change my batteries. Let's see if it totally screwed up my thing. I bet it did. So it sounds maybe screwed a little bit, so I'll finish this up here. But yeah, as I was saying, you know, take the time to invest in yourself and invest in other people, because yeah, that time, that money, well, time you can't earn back ever, and money you have to go re-earn it. You have to go get more. So yeah, don't waste your resources. If you hate Destiny 2, quit. If you hate COD, quit. If you're tired of Square Enix's trash and EA's stuff, you know, then stop buying their games brand new right out of the box. And I'm not calling for a boycott. All I'm saying is that spend your resources when it's worth it to you. Whether that's at a later time or waiting for a sale or just quitting altogether. And I leave that, guys, up to you. So, thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always find me at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee, and you can find me on YouTube at Gaming Garbage 22. Hope you guys are doing well. Man, please survive the heat. Be careful out there, and I'll see you on the next one.